A mining ship called Borealis sails through the vast solitude of space, carrying miners and cryopods. These miners have 4 years remaining before reaching their destination. Suddenly, an asteroid changes course and heads straight for the ship. It collides with the Borealis, forcing the cryopods to enter eject mode. The ship's AI system, Leonard, wakes the miners and begins to prepare them for the situation. A miner, Andy, is awakened at the moment the asteroid strikes. Leonard encourages him to stay calm and follow safety protocols as the cryopods are ejected toward a nearby planet, while the Borealis is destroyed. Robotic arms in his pod finish assembling his suit, adjusting his helmet, and restoring his oxygen supply. Many cryopods are destroyed in the aftermath, either from the collision or from the heat of entering the planet's atmosphere. Andy's pod barely survives the descent, but struggles to adjust its re-entry speed. When Andy's pod is about to collide with a hill, he quickly spins the pod and dodges, making a forced landing. But Andy survives. Unconscious, Andy is awakened by a memory of his family. He checks his surroundings and finds himself in a chain of rocky mountains, under dark, stormy clouds. Andy tries to contact the ship, but there is no response. Suddenly the ground begins to tremble, and Leonard advises him to exit the pod. Then, Andy struggles to open the pod, but it is damaged. Searching the survival kit, he discovers that there is no flare because he is a low-ranking miner. Desperate, Andy uses a fire extinguisher to break the pod's window and attempts to escape. As he does this, the unstable ground tips the pod over, and the broken glass tears his suit. Leonard warns him that the planet's environment is inhospitable, so Andy uses a special spray to seal the tear. Leonard informs Andy that the pod is on fire, and acting quickly, Andy digs his way out, holding his son's toy, the only thing he has left now. Wandering on an alien planet, Andy sees the Borealis enter the atmosphere, but the ship is already engulfed in flames, and when it collides with the planet, it is completely destroyed. The shockwave throws Andy several meters, but he miraculously survives. Then, Andy asks Leonard where they are. Leonard informs him that they are in an unmapped star system and did not reach the intended destination. Spotting a light in the distance, Andy decides to head toward it while trying to contact someone on the radio. Along the way, Andy finds the wreckage of the Borealis and discovers another pod. He tries to grab its oxygen tank, but panics when he sees a lifeless body inside. Gathering his courage, Andy retrieves the tank only to find it is damaged and unusable. Frustrated, he decides to continue toward the light. As he moves away, the pod behind him reveals ominous signs, bloodstains, and scratch marks, hinting that Andy is not alone. Eventually, Andy reaches the light and finds another survivor named Dwayne, who is thrilled to see him. However, Dwayne is considering eating the dead bodies to survive, believing they may be the only two survivors. He explains that the company took a shortcut through an asteroid belt to save fuel, which caused the collision. Dwayne, who works in communications, plans to send a distress signal back to Earth to request a rescue ship. He tells Andy that the signal will take 8 months to reach Earth, and, even with the fastest rescue ship, the RTS, it will take another 2 years to arrive. Dwayne then suggests heading south to find the other half of the Borealis and set up a base camp there. When Andy begins to lose hope, Dwayne encourages him, reminding him of his resilience and giving him a motivational boost. However, the push is a bit too strong for Andy, and he moves back to regain his balance, accidentally disconnecting a wire. As he turns to fix it, a creature suddenly appears and drags Dwayne away. Andy, confused, does not know what just happened. Despite the shock, he finishes sending the distress signal. Then, Andy grabs Dwayne's weapon and heads toward the other half of the ship alone. His oxygen supply is dangerously running low as he presses on. A new voice appears on his radio, a survivor named Naomi. She tells Andy that her legs are trapped in her pod and sends her location. Leonard warns Andy that the area where she is located is highly unstable. Visibility is low, and he will lose all of his oxygen trying to reach her. Instead, Leonard advises that he take a safer route to the other half of the Borealis to replenish his oxygen. Naomi pleads with Andy not to abandon her, saying she has enough oxygen for both of them, and Andy agrees to help her. As Andy heads toward Naomi, the two begin to talk and get to know each other better. After several hours, night falls and Andy begins to feel something unusual. He thinks he sees something moving in the dark and asks Leonard to scan the area, but the AI cannot perform the task. Naomi comments that Leonard is an outdated AI model chosen by the company to save money. An hour later, Andy continues walking, but keeps spotting shadowy figures running through the darkness. He then tells Naomi about Dwayne and wonders aloud what might have happened to him. Soon, Andy notes strange footprints and follows them to a hole surrounded by webs. The place terrifies him, and he quickly informs Naomi that there may be alien spiders on the planet. Well, technically, he and Naomi are the aliens here, while the spiders would just be spiders. Next, Andy begins to walk faster, sensing danger in the area, as he notices more webs spread about. Naomi asks why he took the job, commenting on how difficult it must be, and suggesting he may be running from his past. This triggers a memory of his wife and son playing together. Andy tells Naomi that they left him. Suddenly, he hears a low growl and begins to nervously examine his surroundings. Then Leonard alerts Andy about several trackers approaching his location. Strangely, the trackers belong to crew members who are already dead. As the trackers get closer, Andy fires a flare for visibility. The flare lights up the area, revealing giant spiders with scorpion-like tails moving in their direction. Terrified, Andy runs for his life, but loses his balance and falls into a crack in the ground. The spider pursues him from above, its legs dangerously close. Then Andy falls several meters to the edge of a cliff. Miraculously, he survives the fall, holding on to life by a thread. The enormous spider above roars in frustration, but does not follow him down. Andy informs Naomi about the spiders and reveals the horrible truth that the trackers belong to crew members, who were devoured and are in the creature's stomach. Then Andy notices that his suit is leaking oxygen and uses the remainder of his sealing spray to patch up the tear. Suddenly, Dwayne's voice comes through the radio. He tells Andy and Naomi that he's fighting the giant spiders. Naomi tells Andy, who hesitates to go help Dwayne, arguing that Dwayne has more oxygen. Andy's GPS fails due to the fall, so Naomi guides him toward Dwayne using the radio. Andy finally spots Dwayne's flare and reaches him only to find him under attack. Dwayne screams that he has a plan, but before he can act, a spider leaps onto him. Andy hides behind a pod, powerless as the spider devours Dwayne. Another spider begins to sniff out Andy, but Naomi distracts it by turning on the lights of a nearby pod. Andy seizes the chance to hide inside another pod, only to find a decomposing body inside. Then Andy pleads with Naomi to turn off the lights in his pod, but she has another idea. She turns on all the lights in her pod at once, drawing the spiders to them and giving Andy a chance to escape. Even so, 2 spiders chase him until he stumbles into a foggy area. Andy warns Naomi to leave her pod immediately, but she tells him that she is still trapped. Naomi begins to panic, so Andy sings a calming song he used to sing to his son. Later, Naomi confirms that Dwayne is dead, and that they are the last 2 survivors left on the planet. As he moves through the mist, Andy wonders why the spiders have stopped chasing him, and comes across a mesmerizing swarm of fireflies shining in purple, creating a stunning illusion. But suddenly, the fireflies shift to a furious red and begin attacking him, trying to break his helmet and tear his suit. Andy runs away from the swarm, narrowly escaping. Naomi suggests that the spiders might be afraid of the fireflies, which could explain why the spiders stopped chasing him. Before Andy can process this theory, the mouth of a huge creature suddenly opens from the ground, swallowing him whole. As Andy sinks into the monster's mouth, memories of his family flash before his eyes. Then he completely disappears inside the creature. Andy calls out to Leonard for help as he observes the creature's filthy entrails. He tells Leonard that he is having a heart attack. Leonard quickly activates the defibrillator embedded in Andy's suit, and the creature reacts violently to the shock, spitting Andy out. Next, Andy gets up as the monster chases him. He then falls into a cave-like structure filled with fireflies. Once again, the luminous creatures aggressively attack him, forcing him to flee to the other side of the cave. As he exits, the fireflies stop pursuing him and leave him alone, with only a little oxygen remaining in his suit. Andy heads toward Naomi instead of the remaining part of the Borealis. He reaches her before his oxygen runs out, and she quickly connects him to her supply. Andy tries to free Naomi's trapped leg, but he doesn't have enough strength. Using his safety tools, he creates a lever to lift her leg, finally freeing her. Naomi confirms that her leg is not broken. As they leave the pod, Andy wraps a piece of metal around her leg as a splint, which stabilizes her and helps her walk better. After gathering supplies from Naomi's pod, she thanks Andy for saving her, and together they head for safety. Soon, a horde of spiders surrounds them, forcing them to run. Naomi's advanced AI, named Amy, injects morphine into her to help her bear the pain in her leg. After running for a while, they fall, and a spider hovers over them, about to attack. Naomi fires her flare at the spider, causing it to focus on the object, and the two flee. Taking advantage of the distraction, the duo boards the remaining part of the Borealis. Naomi struggles to close the doors as the control system fails. After several attempts, she manages to close the doors, just as one of the spiders gets stuck and is cut in half. Next, the creatures begin banging on the door, forcing Naomi and Andy to retreat further into the ship. The emergency lights are flashing, signaling that the backup generator is working. Naomi navigates the ship easily, well acquainted with the layout, while Andy, who has only been aboard twice and spent most of the time in cryogenic sleep, feels lost. They eventually find a deck with a habitable environment and enough supplies to sustain them until help arrives. As they try to open the deck, they notice a trail of blood and discover that a spider has entered the Borealis. They hide and watch as the spider lays an egg, covering it with webs and a dead body inside. Andy feels nauseated and struggles against the urge to vomit. The spider seems to sense their presence and simply leaves, but as they begin to move, another spider ambushes them from behind. Andy then locks them in a room, thinking they are safe, but Naomi quickly points out that they trapped themselves in the air. Realizing the mistake, Andy bangs on the door with a metal bar, but it is futile. Without hope, they both remove their helmets and begin to talk. Andy shows Naomi a video recording of his wife and son. He tells her that they died in a car accident while returning home from his birthday, and that he has lived with the guilt of surviving ever since. He feels like he should have been the one who died. Naomi tells him that saving her is proof that his life still holds meaning. She tells him that she has lost faith in people, but his actions have given her hope again. She then hugs him and notices a cluster of fireflies stuck to his suit. Suddenly, the relentless spider breaks down the door. Thinking quickly, Naomi throws the fireflies at the creature, which immediately recoils. The duo seizes the chance to run, but nearly falls into the cargo hold. The spider pursues them, and they all tumble into the hold, but the horrible arachnid continues to chase them. Andy throws Naomi's spray at it. The spider bites the canister, which explodes, temporarily stunning it. This gives Andy and Naomi time to escape. Andy suggests that they use the mining drill to kill the spider once and for all. Then, Naomi creates a distraction, running and shouting for Andy to find a way to kill the spider. Andy has a brilliant idea to crush the spider underneath a pod located in a raised area. He asks Naomi to lure the spider in his direction while he searches for a functional pod. Leonard informs Andy that the only functioning pod is 2 floors above his current position. Andy manages to climb to the pod, while the spider relentlessly attacks Naomi. To help Naomi, Andy turns off all the lights, knowing that the spider is sensitive to them. This allows Naomi to escape from the spider's view. Naomi then finds some emergency lights and turns them on to draw the spider's attention. Meanwhile, Andy works to manually eject the pod. Leonard tells him that he shut down the power to prioritize Naomi's safety and warns that restoring it will take at least 15 minutes. So, Andy decides to ignore the system and restart the pod himself. Naomi, now lit like a beacon, successfully draws the creature toward Andy's position. Andy connects his suit to the pod to manually recharge it. Leonard warns Andy that the process will cause a short circuit in his AI system, meaning that Leonard will cease to exist. Leonard also warns that Andy may not survive the impact. Despite the risks, Leonard expresses his willingness to sacrifice himself, and as the creature moves directly toward the pod, Andy ejects the pod onto the spider, remembering the car accident that took his family's lives. The pod ends up crushing the spider, but the impact leaves Andy unconscious. Next, Naomi runs to him crying, thinking he is dead. Moments later, Andy wakes up, and Naomi hugs him tightly. The two share a quiet moment watching the sunrise on the planet. Despite the adverse conditions and deadly creatures, they are reminded of the strange beauty of the planet. To their surprise, Leonard reactivates, explaining that he underwent an update. Andy smiles in relief, and Leonard plays a beautiful song for them. Hand in hand, Andy and Naomi look toward the future. What began as a snapshot cryogenic journey has turned into a battle for survival. Now they have almost 2 years to wait for a rescue ship, assuming the distress message made it to Earth, and the film ends with them looking out at the planet. Nerve that in see it yuri it's that is bit it yuri it and see that yuri it then